Hi, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of LIR Confidential. And I'm absolutely delighted to have in the studio, remotely speaking, Ayvianna Snow, who's a rising star and a rising star on the up, on very much on the up. I was reading about you, Ayvianna, before this program. You've done quite a lot, you know. You've done an awful lot. Her latest film is Laura, but we'll get to that later on. That was shot here in Ireland, in Kildare, was it in Dublin or so? Kildare as well.
Yes.
Andrew Legg was the director. But where where did you grow up, Ayvianna?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm thrilled to be here, and it's very kind of you to talk to me at all. I was born in Derry in Northern Ireland, um, and I was there until my teens. And then in my teens, I moved to England, and I spent some time in Manchester, and then I came to London, and now I'm in London. So I've been around the houses a bit.
Fantastic. Of course, London. I mean, I worked in London way back in the 1970s, but
Oh
that's
my goodness.
a century ago. But and tell me, d- how did you get into the business, so to speak, of acting and television and all of that? Did you have that uh, interest when you were growing up?
I did. There's a wonderful culture in Ireland of kind of music and drama and song and dance, which I
Mm.
noticed kind of they don't have quite so much in England. Now I live in England, I've really noticed that difference. And when
Yeah,
I was growing up, we have an annual feish in Derry where all the kind of local kids come together for a
yeah.
week to perform extracts out of plays or sing a song or do I did Irish dancing when I was a child.
Oh, you did? Oh, great.
Yeah, yeah. Or poetry and I used to take part in the feish every year. Um, I also did sort of local drama classes at the Millennium Forum, which we have in Derry.
Yeah,
Um,
fabulous.
and it's such a wonderful. At the time, I didn't really appreciate it, how good it was, but now as an adult looking back, like we used to sit, once a week in the evening and read bits of Oscar Wilde or Brian Friel or Seamus Heaney. Like, there's so many fantastic Irish writers, and I just sort of thought nothing of it and just thought, oh yeah, that's something I do in the evening on a Wednesday. Um, but that has really stood me in really good stead. And when I started doing acting professionally in England, it was fantastic to have that grounding in all those amazing writers. Um, it gives you a really good foundation. So I
And
did all
did
that.
you, yeah, and did you do your what they call here in Ireland your schooling, your education? Was it in Derry or was it in London? You completed it?
I did. So I went to Lumen Christi in Derry, which is the big grammar school in Derry. And then I did a drama school in Manchester. I did the Arden School of Theatre. That's where I got my degree. Um, so I
Yeah.
have, yeah, I did schooling in both countries. And now I'm in London.
Of course, the Derry girls put Derry on the map, didn't they?
Yes, they really did. Um, yeah, that's a fantastic show.
It was, I mean, it's a simple idea in one hand, but really to carry it off, like all simple ideas, it takes hard work as well, But I thought they'd be an inspiration to
Absolutely.
many people as well, those actresses, they were just fantastic.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to see Derry being portrayed in a more positive light, in a
Yeah,
kind of light,
absolutely.
comedic light, because I think I noticed when I first came to England that the English often associate Northern Ireland with sort of terrorism and bombs, and we get kind of because that's all they ever see on the news,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it was actually really nice to have a more positive portrayal being put out there.
Yeah, I've been in Derry many times. Of course, I'd be an old jazz head, and there'd be a jazz festival up there. So
Oh, of course,
I
yeah, they have
was
the jazz festival.
stayed out with my friends out the Limma Valley Road for a few times, and lovely place, lovely part of the country. I mean, we're a small island, so we should be able to have the culture. There should be no cultural divide, and there isn't anyway. When it
No.
comes to that. But then, I'm reading about you there since you kindly agreed to do this. White collar black,
Yeah.
uh, sorry, Barrow Rye and the House on the Cliff, Hollow, the
Mhm.
Lockdown, Hauntings, horror. and sci-fi.
Right.
Horror, I like, I
I
must say myself. And how
I
did you
know.
get those?
Um,
How did you get those
how did I get
parts? And
horror?
yeah,
I mean, it's partly the budget level at which I work. So I do mainly kind of independent film. And
right.
horror is probably the most popular genre for independent film because it's the kind of the best one to sell because horror fans just love the genre so much, and there is that audience that exists that are sort of hungry for new horror films. And horror fans kind of they often don't care if you haven't got like a famous name in the film. They're just willing to watch anything that's a
Yeah,
good horror
that's
because they
true.
just
That's very
yeah.
true.
So a lot of like if you look at directors that went on to become quite big, if you go back through their CV, often their first film was a horror. That was their way in to kind of
Yeah.
grab an audience.
Hmm.
So it's partly that, and I think it's also maybe it's the way I look. I think I have a slightly ghostly pallor. You may have
You have
noticed.
that. You
Um,
have that. What's the word I'm looking for now? And I don't want it to come across as an insult, but you have that horror. You have that horror look about you.
I have a horrible face. I know.
No, no,
Um,
a horror
I
look
know.
that it seamlessly, fits into the frame, so to speak, to see getting
Yeah,
all
I look like a sort of like a
Plus,
go-to
there's a
ghost.
huge tradition in Britain with Hammer House Horror, with
Yeah, absolutely.
horror has been.
And I
It's
live
huge. It's a
in
huge genre, and there's a solid following. A solid following.
yeah,
They're dedicated. That's the word I'm looking for.
yeah.
Like sci-fi fans, they're dedicated fans as well.
Oh my gosh,
And
yeah, and yeah, I mean, you go to
you
Fright
did a bit of
Fest and
work.
people come and they've dressed up in these amazing costumes and they've put so much effort
Yeah,
into it.
and you grew up. You did a bit of stage work as well.
Yeah, of course.
And
You know,
where
sorry.
did that? How did that come about? Yeah, built away. Hang on. Yeah.
So I think it's amazing for an actor to have a grounding on the stage because I think that's where you really learn your craft. And I would recommend to any actor to do a few years on stage before you attempt anything in front of a camera. Um,
Right.
and again, having had that grounding on the stage gave me a great foundation for when I then went on to try to do camera work.
Yeah.
Um, so I started I mean, I did sort of little things in Derry when I was very young, again at the like the Rialto, which I think doesn't exist anymore,
Mm,
showing my age, the
yeah.
Millennium Forum. Um, and then I did when I got to Manchester, I did sort of student level kind of productions at the Waterside Theatre in Manchester and the Contact Theatre and the Library Theatre, which also doesn't exist anymore. It's terrible the sort of the arts funding cuts. All these great theatres
I
are going
know.
dark.
It's shocking, and
Um,
people don't
yeah,
realize in Ireland there are many people employed in the arts as there is in multinational companies, and people
really.
don't. Yeah, the people don't in the public, and the figures aren't highlighted enough. The figures aren't made as important, But I'm sure we have a healthy regard now. I think as the government and the people who are looking after the film industry in the Republic.
Mm,
They have, there is huge support now. There is a good support system, and
yeah,
they brought in the last budget. I know what in the Republic. I know what the situation is. A minimum wage, a minimum income for artists.
of course. You're trialing that in Ireland, aren't you?
Yeah,
Having a
there's a
minimum
minimum
wage for
wage now,
artists.
and so that they can eat more than beans and toast. And I don't mean to be that
That's
flippant.
fascinating
Yeah,
because we've campaigned for that at Equity in the UK for a long time and haven't got anywhere.
yeah.
And then, of course, I've heard that Ireland is trialing it. So it's going to be amazing to see what the results are and whether that's sustainable going
And
forward. Because,
And it's like yourself, timing is everything at times, You could
mm,
be struggling for years, but like with the upsurge in with all the Oscar nominations for the Banshees of Inisherin, I've gone to see it twice actually, I must admit. Because I missed a bit. You'd always miss something or something goes
you
past
do.
you, you know. Did you see
It's
it
a
yourself?
fantastic time. Yeah, no, I loved it. It's a fantastic time for Irish talent because
It's
we've got, is it
like,
Paul Mescal and
yeah,
that young man who was also nominated for an Oscar, whose name I can't remember. Can you remember the gentleman that I'm thinking of?
Keoghan,
Barry
Barry
Keoghan,
Keoghan,
that's it. So,
Barry Keoghan. Well, Keoghan, they
yes,
say, but Keoghan, you can have either Keoghan or Keoghan, depending where you are. But Barry is
sure.
excellent.
So, I mean, it's
And
fantastic that finally, Irish artists are getting that recognition on a global
yeah,
scale, and it can only be a
true.
positive thing.
It can. I mean, I love some of the lines. I mean, but you liked me yesterday, you know? I don't like you today,
There's such a great kind of dark humor about it. It's amazing.
It's just so natural. That's the word I'm looking for. So natural,
Yeah.
You can imagine it happening, and the setting was in the world. But getting back to yourself, I mean, it's very, very good. There's very good reports on the film itself,
It's had a
How did
really
that
positive response, yeah.
Emma Appleton and Stephanie Martini? Obviously, I know about them. I'm not a total nerd, but how was it like working with Andrew Legg? Because Andrew is has a good reputation now.
Mm. I just felt incredibly grateful to be there, and grateful that these really high caliber people wanted to talk to me at all, because they could have had anyone,
Oh no,
in the
you're
role.
being you're being too
And
self-effacing now about things.
Andrew was lovely and just
Yeah.
so nice and so warm and welcoming. Because they were a real team, Emma and Stephanie and Andrew, and they had worked together for months, whereas I was, I just came in and did a sort of small part and left. So, and you can feel sometimes kind of excluded or like you're on the outside, but they were
Yeah.
so warm and welcoming and made me feel at my ease, which is so nice. And Alan Maher, who was the producer, has been a friend of mine for a few years, and he was lovely to have him on set as well. And he's a really hands-on producer, because some
Right.
producers kind of sit in an office miles away and you never see them or hear from them, whereas Alan was on set in
Oh, I
person,
see.
getting involved, yeah, giving suggestions,
That made a
he
hu-
was like
that
tweaking
made
the
a huge
script,
yeah, that made a huge difference
so
to you yourself, especially
absolutely, yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, would you ever get overwhelmed or a sense of, gosh,
I feel constantly overwhelmed all the time.
no, but what I mean is you have the script and you're saying, gosh, am I in the wrong place? Really, really in the wrong place, And
I'm
but I mean,
always
as
in
you
the wrong
said,
place.
harping back to what you said earlier on, I mean, with being my brother is a producer of amateur drama for years in the locality where he
Oh,
lives,
oh, really?
So I
Okay.
can see the commitment of people. And he never persuaded me to be on stage, or maybe he just didn't want me. I don't know, but that's for another day. But Shinshki Lilla, as they say. But yourself, of course, being in drama and being acting on stage, live acting in front of an audience, that
Mm.
certainly does prepare you for situations
For
like you were in
life,
shooting
for
of
difficult
Lola.
situations.
And could you just say a
I
bit
mean,
for our viewers on the premise, the plot in Lola? Is it
yes, of course.
you're one of two sisters in it, I believe, yeah?
No, no. Emma and Stephanie play the two sisters, and they have this wonderful bond on screen. It's beautiful to watch. So they invent a machine which can intercept television or radio broadcasts from the future. So basically, they can kind of work out what's happening in the future,
All
and they
right.
get involved. Yeah, it's a great sci-fi premise,
I
and
forgot
they
your
get
question.
involved.
You're the reporter in it,
I'm
you
a
know?
TV reporter. That's
I
right.
love your name. Who came up with the name? Rebecca Cavendish.
I think Alan came up with it.
It just
He's
it
great at
has
things like that. I know
this
he's.
lovely
He
what did I
sounds
say?
quite posh.
Respectable posh ring about it.
Yes, a sort of Miss
Yeah,
Cavendish.
Rebecca Cavendish, okay.
Um,
You're
I think, and so they get involved in the war effort, and they're able to use their knowledge of the future to kind of tip off the British as to how to beat the Nazis, kind of thing.
right.
So it's quite a big uh, story, but at the same time, it's very intimate because it's got that lovely relationship between the two sisters. and how they look after each other.
And how long did the whole project take for you, from your point of view, your input into it? I mean, was it all shot in Kildare and Dublin?
No, my part was shot in London. So
Right.
actually they were multi-locations.
Yeah.
So I was only involved fairly briefly. I think I was only in for a day or 2 days, whereas the others had already been in Kildare shooting for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite a big production, and then I had to go back and do ADR afterwards, additional dialogue recording, which we ended up recording in the Groucho Club in a corner. I mean, this is the thing with low budget filmmaking. You've got to just kind of use the resources at hand
Yeah.
and just kind of make it work. And it was terribly funny. We recorded it once, and again with Alan. And he listened to it back and said, "No, I can hear people. I can hear cutlery in the background. We'll have to do it again." And
All
sort
right.
of
Oh,
crept
yeah.
up to the attic. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's yeah, it's, you've got to be prepared to just kind
And
of
of
go
course,
with the situation and make it work.
exactly. And of course, you have only so much, the actors in the film have only so much control, because at the end of the day, the producer, the director, the editor, and all decide what we call the final cut of the film. And
I'm always very grateful whenever they edit it and make me look really good, because equally they could edit it and make you look really bad. So, and as you say, you have no control over it.
no, absolutely not. And what did you think of the final product, so to
Oh my
speak?
goodness, I was so impressed. I think they did a fantastic job. It's it's kind of intercut. A lot of it is shot on a little handheld camera that Stephanie's holding throughout, and it sort of cuts between that handheld footage and the other footage. So it's just very beautifully, cleverly done. And they made me look so good. I think they put my recording kind of through a filter, which made it look really old, like it's because it's meant to have been shot in the 1940s, and they had some way of making it look like a 1940s film. So yeah, and the scope of it looks huge. They've managed to sort of recreate Nazi Germany somehow on quite a tight budget. So I mean, I absolutely take my hat off to them. They did an amazing job.
Yeah, yeah, that's and very good. That's very good. You know. Now, Lola, so you're happy with Lola. What about yourself? What about future projects? Anything in the pipeline?
Yeah, so I am very lucky to be appearing in Video Shop Tales of Terror, which is out. Well, it's on the festival circuit at the moment. It's amazing. So on the 24th of February, Lola is screening at Dublin Film Festival, and Video Shop is screening at Romford Film Festival on the same day, within about 2 hours of each other. So I'm going to have to choose my favorite, which sounds terrible, as to which one
Well,
I can go and see.
Romford, that's down in Essex, isn't it? Yeah,
That's
Essex.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
which is
Romford,
slightly
Essex.
closer to where I live now. But
That's where the wonderful Steve Davis is from. The ex-snooker player. He's retired now. He's from Romford.
oh,
He lives in
I
a
did not know
castle.
that.
He lives in a
A
castle outside Romford.
castle.
Yes. Well, he did
Wow. I
anyway.
wish I lived in a castle.
Out of
I
all the
just
money
live
on
in
the
a
snooker.
flat.
So the 24th of February, Lola in Dublin.
Yep.
So that's something for our dad. But we put up all that information when we're putting up our program on our YouTube channel anyway. We put up all
Yeah,
the
that
links.
would be great. It's to
We put up
Dublin
all the
Film
links.
Festival.
And I meant to say before, while I think of it now, you could say it to favor with yourself. If you have anything to do with yourself thing, just send us an email and a picture or something, or a
Thank
photograph.
you.
I mean, it costs nothing to publicize people like that, you know.
Thank you.
And
You're very
what
kind.
about yourself now? Have you bigger ambitions for yourself?
I always have big ambitions. um, I think you've got to have big ambitions for yourself, because no one else is going to have ambitions for you. So I think you've got to believe in yourself. Um, but yeah, I mean, I am very happy in the horror genre.
Yeah,
But I hope that as I go on in life, I'll get opportunities to diversify and do other stuff. But horror's amazing. It's such a versatile genre. We have the
And
best fans. It's such a great community.
yeah, and when you look, just like a big family, I dare say,
It is
because
like a big family. Yeah.
I don't have to tell you if I'm going around, you do run into familiar faces all the time, or same faces, who tend to like,
Absolutely, yeah. And it's lovely when you've been on the kind of horror circuit for a few years. You all know each other, and it's a kind of, as you say, you bump into the same people every year at Fright Fest, and it's like a big reunion. And there's
oh,
a
yeah.
lovely atmosphere. So, I'm very, very lucky.
And what about your family? Are they supportive of you and all of that?
They're very supportive. I think they were slightly nonplussed at first because everyone else has a proper job. Um,
Yes, I know you'll
so
always
I'm the
take
only
that line.
I'm the only crazy one, I think.
It's, but you have to have one in every family, I mean, that's something you
Right?
can never
Yeah.
go wrong,
Otherwise, it would be boring.
But maybe people should advocate, as I said, for that minimum wage that we're trialing in Ireland for artists, particularly artists who are beginning, like painters and poets and all of that. These
Yeah.
are very valuable
Yeah.
people in our community. I don't have to
And
tell
I think
you,
they have to be supported at the beginning of their careers. Otherwise, they never make it to a higher level in your career. And the thing is, once you are successful, you don't really need support anymore, do you? Because you've got big contracts. It's at the beginning that you need the support.
And is the United States still a big market? Is it one of the markets that you're always looking over your shoulder at to promote stuff or to get
Yeah,
into
I
or
mean,
whatever? Or is it
to be honest,
changing?
the market nowadays is very global. So I think it used to be the case maybe 50 years ago that you had to sort of actually go to Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Whereas I
Yeah.
would say nowadays an awful lot of the biggest films are cast in London. Um, or even, you can do something like this to talk to someone in America. You can send a self-tape
Yes.
to something that's being cast in America. So and a lot of the best sort of British shows are sold to America anyway. Like, I mean, I think Lockdown Hauntings had a cinema release or some sort of release in the United States. So a lot of the sort of British films end up showing in the United States anyway. So and the advent of platforms like Netflix and Amazon, which are global, means
Yeah.
that you can make something in Kildare and show it in America or
You
through
can. It's a
Netflix,
global.
and you actually don't
Yes.
really have to kind of move to America in the way that maybe you used to have to do. So I think that is changing.
Hmm. And tell us about the lockdown hauntings for people who, I mean, obviously it was shot during lockdown, was it?
It was, yes. Um, so we shot that. Howard Ford was the writer and director, and he's an amazing, resourceful guy. And he came up with this idea. What can we do? We're all in lockdown. It's the pandemic. No one can mix or leave their house. How can we shoot a movie under these conditions? That was his challenge. And he came up with this amazing idea of shooting actors in their own homes. And we were all shot one at a time, so none of us mixed, so we weren't kind of breaking the bubble.
No.
And he did everything himself. He was the cameraman, he was the sound person, he was saying the other lines. If you needed another actor in the scene and there was no other actor, Howard would do that. It was like a one-man band. So he came here to my little humble flat in Ealing and we shot a bit, and then he would get back in his car and drive somewhere else and shoot someone else in their house, and then manage to edit it all together into a beautiful film.
So you're in Ealing Broadway. Are you Ealing?
Yes, do you know it?
I lived in Ealing Broadway. I lived up in Acton as
No
well. Just
way.
I did.
Small world. Oh my goodness.
And where the great London West 7 and the Great West Road, I forget the name of it now.
Yes, 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 yes,
Moved
yeah.
around a bit. Harls and Wills and
Oh,
gosh. When you're young, you go from flat to flat. As soon as the rent accumulates, you just leave
you
and go down.
move.
Gosh, I hope there's no one looking. That was a long time ago, But, London is, I loved London. It's a fabulous city. It still
Yeah.
is a fabulous city. I know there's something, I know, I just loved it.
It's got such a great energy. It's got
Yeah.
that sort of, like, anything can happen in London. You can do anything. The possibilities are endless.
Mm, mm,
It's kind of magical in that sense.
mm. London now, and where else? Probably Haifa in Israel, which is the third, I think, third biggest city. Beautiful, absolutely
Really?
magnificent. If you're into coffee, drinking coffee, if you
I
like coffee,
am. Look, I have coffee here right now. I love
you drink
coffee.
away, drink away. Don't leave it go cold. But in Haifa, in Ben Gurion Avenue, which is coming down from Mount Carmel in Haifa, there's every type of a coffee shop you could ever come across there. It's just, the Arabs and the Jews and the English. There's English people there with pizza joints, but every
This
coffee,
I have to see.
Turkish coffee shops to die for. How do we come on to that? I mean, coffee is coffee. Really, if you just go for the coffee to be worth it, plus anything
It
else.
sounds
No,
amazing. It's like
so
my
how
dream
was
place.
yeah, how was that received, the lockdown hauntings?
It was received really well. I think people were impressed at how much we managed to do on, with literally two people in a room, and because there was no crew, so we were doing all the crewing ourselves. So and
Right.
it's impressive how good it looks when you consider
Yeah.
the kind of shoestring budget and the resources that we
Well,
had.
lighting and green screens are fantastic, you know?
Yeah,
They
yeah,
are.
and
They really are.
and Howard
Technology.
has his post-production wizardry where he sort of edits things to make them look good. But I mean, we had some
I
kind of
know.
we even had things tied to strings and like pulling strings and just this kind of
Yes.
like camera effects and really old
I'm, I'm,
school.
and my colleague is like that, Mary Honan, who set up this, she was liaising with Faye. She makes me look better than I am now, and that takes some feet, I don't mind seeing it, I don't know, she's just a whiz. And Mary, we're very good. Thank you very much, Don't ever leave, White, White. You're listening to myself, Papari, on LIR Confidential with Ayvianna Snow, our special guest. Part in, I think, was it on the stage in the Hound of the Baskervilles?
Oh my goodness, this is really going back. I think that was
Yeah,
2012.
there you are.
Um,
I did my
yeah,
little
that was
research, right?
goodness me, you have done research.
Yeah,
That was in Bristol in another theatre which doesn't exist
I
anymore.
know.
It's
It's so sad. So
I
sad.
mean, so Oldham Coliseum has just announced they're gonna have to go dark. The
Oh,
Arcola and Hampstead here in London have
yeah.
lost 100% of their funding, so they've gone from fully funded to zero funded overnight. I mean, it's really shocking what's happening to the arts.
Why? I mean, why is that happening? I know. Look, we don't want to be denigrating politicians all the time, but they have to shoulder some of the blame for these crazy decisions.
I think as a society, we need to just value the arts more because
Yeah,
obviously the fact that it's the arts which takes all the funding cuts shows that they're not really valued. And actually, the arts do bring billions into the UK economy every year. So
of course they do. Yeah,
even just financially, it's we do pay for
yeah.
ourselves. So
Now, what's his name? Lola. Was all the music supplied by the wonderful Neil Hannon?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Which was
and Neil
fantastic. I
Hannon.
met him briefly at Fright Fest, and
Oh,
somebody
good.
told me, which I didn't know, apparently he wrote My Lovely Horse from Father Ted.
He
Isn't
did.
that
Yeah.
amazing?
Our wonderful Eurovision
Oh
Song Contest. If you're ever
my
over
God.
in Limerick or
I,
Shannon area, we'll bring you out to see the house that the Father Ted was shot. It's only out the road from us here, you know?
really?
The
Oh
the
my
the
God.
parish house, the house where they were living in.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, Craggy Island.
Craggy Island.
So
It's
that I thought
superb.
was
That was
incredible,
superb. Just, just
to meet the man who wrote My Lovely Horse. I mean, my life,
Neil's
um,
been around the music business a long time now with Divine Comedy. He's
yes.
a talented, lovely, lovely, talented man, Neil Hannon, that
Mm,
is. But yeah, he did the music for Lola for people who are interested in that. I know our colleague here in LIR Media, Martin Lennon, is a complete movie nerd altogether. He'd be going mad now. He's working. He'd be going mad. He didn't do this interview, Martin. But went over him. But he'll be doing a show devoted to the film Lola himself. Anyway, He does that himself. We'll send you on the link for that. Your email.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your email to yourself. What's coming down the line for you? Oh, 24th of February is very soon, isn't it?
It's yesterday, the 14th of February.
No, the 24th. I don't mind the 14th of February.
Sorry.
I stay in bed all day for the 14th of February.
So do I. The 24th of February is next Friday, I think.
The 10th, 17th, the 24th. That's right. Actually, where's it? I want to look it up in a minute. That's Lola and as you said, what's on in Reading then again in
Romford? We have Video Shop Tales of Terror.
Video Shop Tales. Is that just how long is Lola, by the way? I forgot to look up the time. The film.
I don't know. It's
generally
it's feature length, so it's over 90 minutes, I would think.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would. And what about we call getting out yourself? Looking at yourself now down the long line, 5 or 10 years time. Would you like to be in a more, what did I say, general roles rather than genre? Are you happy enough where you are right now?
I'm very happy, and I'm just. I think I said this earlier on. As I go down the road of life, I hope to have other opportunities to diversify. But I'm very happy. I love horror. We have the best fans in the world, and I just feel very grateful to be able to act. And as if I'm still lucky enough to be doing this in 10 years, I'll be very thankful, and I'll be a very lucky girl.
Well, I mean, with the upsurge on this side of the pond, and obviously Britain as well, with the upsurge in the interest and
there's a lot of shooting going on, isn't there? I mean, I think Game of Thrones was shot in Belfast, quite a lot of it. Or in well, not Belfast, but in Northern Ireland.
In Game
general.
of Thrones.
Yeah.
Up around down is somewhere up there. I forget how it is. Yeah, but I know one of my brothers is that he'd know more about you than I would. One of my other younger brothers, he's a total horror freak. I don't mean freak, but he is. You go into his film collection, into his apartment, and you're looking around to see is there any other genre on the shelf. Right on. There's the odd one, But Ayvianna, we're absolutely delighted that you took the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
The pleasure was all ours, by the way, and thanks to you. And you're blessed to have good people around you, I think, myself, from what I can see. But you have to have talent as well, which you have in abundance, no doubt, I mean, and as you said,
that's kind of debatable, I think, but yes.
And as you said, you
some
have
would
the
agree, some would not.
Ayvianna Snow has been our special guest on LIR Confidential.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very soon. Don't forget, lads, 24th of February, Lola is in Dublin, and for all of us here locally. And we put all the links. We meet again on LIR Confidential from Pat Barry and from Ayvianna Snow. Goodbye, good luck, and the best of luck with your career. Bye-bye.